Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Anton, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to set up USB Loader GX on your Nintendo Wii. I'll be covering the full setup top to bottom, including the homebrew channel, cIOS installation, how to add GameCube game support, and even WiiWare. Remember, this tutorial is for educational purposes, and anything that you decide to use the software for, and any issues you run into along the way, are not my responsibilities. But if you follow this tutorial correctly and carefully, you shouldn't run into any issues whatsoever. So do keep that in mind. But on a more positive note, before we begin with the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see future videos just like this one, and more Wii stuff as well. And let's get started. So, first things first, let's talk about what you will need for this tutorial. So you will need a USB drive and an SD card. USB Loader only accepts USB drives, so if you have an SD card only, it will not work and you will have to use another loader. But don't fret, as USB drives and SD cards are fairly inexpensive to purchase, depending on of course the capacity, but you should be able to find one for a fairly good price. And trust me, it's worth it if you want to back up a lot of games. Now about which ones, I personally used a Lexar 64GB jump drive and a SanDisk Ultra SDHC UHSI card. I also recommend going for an SDHC SD card as it has the best compatibility overall. They work perfectly without any issues and are formatted to FAT32. But if you already have a USB drive and are unsure about its compatibility, you can check out this compatibility list in the description. And also, I recommend not to use USB 3.0 as it does not have the best compatibility either. But your SD card and USB drive must be formatted to FAT32. However, if they are not, Disk Utility on Mac or Windows File Explorer should be able to format them. Although do make sure that you back up your files when doing so, as formatting a drive will wipe all data stored on it. Additionally, you will need a Wiimote like this one. The Wii Motion Plus versions might not work correctly and might not be compatible for some parts of this tutorial, so I recommend that you have an original Wiimote like this one. And last but not least, we will need obviously a Nintendo Wii. Virtual Wii mode on Wii U may work for some parts of this tutorial, specifically USB Loader GX content, but to be safe, I recommend following a Wii U only guide. It also doesn't matter if your Wii has GameCube compatibility or not, and if you don't know, just make sure to check the side of the Wii to see if there are any flaps that reveal the compartment. Now, your Wii must be modded to continue with this tutorial, but if it's not, check out this tutorial in the description and on screen now, which should tell you how to get the homebrew channel installed very easily. And in fact, you don't even need an SD card to set anything up, but you will need one eventually to install applications and stuff. Alright, now that we have the necessary equipment, we can get started. So, what you'll want to do is go into the description to where there will be a link that will take you to this mega download. There are files that you will need to get started. So download the files, and once you have them extracted, make sure to take the ones that are in the SD folder and move them into the root of your SD card. And then take the files that are located inside of the USB folder and copy them into your USB drive. Now if you've done everything correctly, it should look something like this. And I've included some example files here as well. These are not games and are just for demonstration purposes. And of course, there are no games to be found in this download. Also, if you don't have the internet connection set up on your Wii system, make sure to head to the Wii settings and configure your internet connection. You can also check out my Wii homebrew video, as that does show you how to connect to the internet. Alright, so now what you want to do is eject your SD card and then insert it in your Wii. Go to the homebrew channel and then click on the app called the D2X cIOS installer. Then press load. This is pretty much custom firmware and will allow you to play games on USB Loader GX, as well as do plenty of other things as well. You can also check out Wii.guide, as it should show you exactly what I'm about to show you, however in a text document format. So recommend checking that out, and of course you can find it in the description. So press continue and then enter the following on screen. So you can use a D-pad in order to change the values here. So for cIOS, we're going to set to V10 beta 52, D2X V10 beta 52, and our base is going to be 57, our slot is going to be 249, and our version is going to be 65535. Once you've done this, press A twice, and then once installed, press A to return and set the next values. If there are any bad blocks or anything strange happens, don't worry, as this is normal. So now we can set the next values, which are going to be V10 beta 52, D2X V10 beta 52, our base is going to be 56, our slot is going to be 250, and our version is going to be 65535. So now you can press A twice to install, and then press A to return and enter the final values. And of course, our cIOS is going to be V10 beta 52, D2X V10 beta 52 once again, and then our base is going to be 38, our slot is going to be 251, and our version is going to be 65535. Run it again, and once it has completed, you can exit the application. So now that we have the custom firmware installed, you should now be able to load Wii backups in USB Loader GX, as GameCube games actually don't need this in order to successfully run. So now we are going to get back to our computer, and we're going to set up the games. So, what are WBFS files? Well, they are essentially an executable Wii file that loaders on the Wii and emulators can read. GameCube games usually are in .iso or .gcn format, but it doesn't matter which, as they should both work perfectly fine. Also, GameCube files that are nkit.iso also work as well. However, if you do have issues with those specific files, I recommend going for just simply .iso. So now, if your Wii file is an ISO file, that means that we'll need to convert it to WBFS. To do this, we'll need to download either Wii Backup Manager for Windows or WIT GUI if you have a Mac. So just select where your file is and it will easily convert it, as well as set up the file structure for you as well. But you can do it manually if you're intimidated by the Wii managers. But don't worry, as they aren't actually that complicated to use and could make things easier. However, some drives that are incompatible with USB Loader GX or just don't work with FAT32 may need to be formatted to WBFS. And when doing so, you will not be able to load GameCube backups. Now, this Lexar jump drive works completely fine with FAT32, however, some drives may need to be converted. Again, you can check out the compatibility list in the description that I mentioned earlier in this video. Now, when you have it in WBFS format, it's a bit tricky to set up, as your drive will not be accessible to your file explorer, so you will need to have a WBFS manager or WIT GUI in order to remove and add games. Now, I don't recommend doing this way, and I recommend just buying another USB drive because it's very annoying to deal with. So make sure you get a USB drive that is compatible with FAT32 and works perfectly. So that's why I recommend going with the Lexar jump drive, as I've never had any issues with it. Now for the USB, we're going to put in some games. I'll talk about paths later on in the video in case you want to change directories, but games and WBFS folders are the ones that USB Loader looks for, and should be in your USB's root. If not, then make sure you have that. I showed that earlier on the video, so if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do so. Don't worry about the USB's WAD folder yet, as it will be used for WiiWare games later on in this tutorial. The game folder should have a format like this: game name, and then of course, in square brackets, game ID. And inside the folder is where you will put the game file. So if it's a Wii file, which is a WBFS, then you must put the game ID as the one in the folder, but it does not need any square brackets. But for GameCube, you will need to name the file just game.iso. And no, game is not a placeholder name, it's just game, that's it. So you will need to name the file just game.iso. If it's nkit.iso, then just remove the nkit part, and it should be fine as game.iso. In my experience, NKIT ISO files have worked without any problems, but if you do have issues, then just use a standard ISO. Also, if the file is .gcn, just name it as game.gcn, and it should not have any loading problems. Now, for the loader to find the box art, we must have the game ID, and that's what it's for. This can be found on the Game TDB site, which is an archive for all types of box arts. So there are no games to be found here. You can also put your own custom box art, or do it manually in the config images folder on the SD card. As long as the file has the corresponding game ID, it should be fine. So now we have all of our games in the correct folders and everything is set up correctly, we can then eject the USB and place it in the back of our console. I recommend placing it in the bottom USB port, as that should work perfectly fine. Again, if you're having issues, you can always change it to the other port as well, and even USB Loader does have a setting to change the number of ports, so that may also be able to solve an issue as well. Now boot up your Wii, go to the homebrew channel, and then we're going to go to where it says USB Loader GX, just click on it, and then press load. And once it loads, here is the USB Loader interface. You can set box art by going to this button and clicking at the box. This will bring up a prompt asking if it should download the files. Just select yes, and it will download the corresponding art. Make sure you have a good internet connection for this, but sometimes even with a good internet connection, it may run into an error. If that happens, you can just reboot your Wii, and actually the box art should download, but then you can just try again and it should work. Because sometimes it tries to download box arts for different things such as disc and 2D art and 3D art, so. Now for my personal USB Loader settings, these are mine, so if you want to copy them down, then just pause the screen to do that. I'll go through them quite slowly so you can check them all out. So yeah, these are pretty much all of my settings. You can also set up GameCube Nintendo settings such as widescreen, memory card emulation, as well as even implementing themes and many other cool things. So I recommend going through all of these and experimenting and trying to create your personal USB Loader experience. So if you want, USB Loader GX can be installed as a channel on the Wii system menu. The homebrew channel and Wii channel versions both allow for support of GameCube games, but the Wii channel version actually has tabs that make the sections organized and easier to use. So by it being a Wii channel, that means that USB Loader GX is actually copied on the Wii's internal memory. So this isn't actually a forwarder and isn't going through the homebrew channel. You also don't need the executable on an SD card to launch USB Loader GX, but you will need an SD card to store all the configuration files. To update the loader, you can then reinstall a new channel over the old one, or use the loader's internal online update feature. So, now I'm going to show you guys how to install it. So what you will need to do is go to the multi-mod manager, which should be in the USB Loader Pack file. Go to the homebrew channel, and then launch the application called the multi-mod manager. Once it is open, go down to where it says WAD installation, and then just select the WAD. Do be cautious when downloading this, as if there is a power outage or problem, it could brick your console. This file is safe and should download without any errors whatsoever. I've never personally run into any issues with that. Once downloaded, you can then exit out of the multi-mod manager, and then exit to the Wii menu, where you should see the USB Loader GX channel, and it should work perfectly fine and allow you to easily access it. And I definitely recommend doing this, especially if you want to use USB Loader a lot and want the best version possible and the best experience, so I really recommend doing it. Now I'm going to show you guys how to install WiiWare games on USB Loader GX. You can do this on both Wii channel and homebrew channel versions. Next, we're going to go onto our computer, and what you want to do is take your WAD files and then put them in your WAD folder on your USB. You can also put them on your SD card as well. However, I'm going to do this on my USB just to make things simple, and plus I have all my games on my USB anyway, so I'm just going to do that just to make things easier for myself. But again, you can put it on the SD card. The WADs do not need to be renamed or anything, just dragged and dropped. That's it. And once you have done this, eject your USB drive and insert it in your console. So what we're going to do is go into USB Loader GX's settings and select features, and scroll down to where it says dump NAND to EmuNAND. This is going to dump your Wii's internal memory, also known as NAND, to your SD card. This is so we can install plenty of WiiWare titles that won't actually take up blocks on the Wii's internal memory. Next, select everything, and once you've done that, this process should begin. This is completely normal and should proceed for a few minutes. Now once it's done and has completed everything, click on WAD Manager and then select either file. If you want to install games individually, or if you want to install all of the games in a folder. In my case, I'm going to select folder because I want to download quite a lot of games. So then select USB and then navigate to our USB's WAD folder. Don't worry if your files are invisible in the menu, as this is completely normal, and then just press OK and then install. Now, the games should proceed to install, and depending on how many there are, it may take a while to install. If it says X amount of WAD files, not processed, just press OK. But once that has finished, we can then go into our WiiWare section, and all of our installed titles should be here. From here, you can download box art and play them to your heart's content. 80% of WiiWare titles function, however some games like Castlevania, The Adventure Rebirth, and Bonsai Barber do not work with EmuNAND, so that is something to consider if you really do want to play those games. Alright, now it's time for the frequently asked questions. These are questions that I've gotten from the previous USB Loader GX tutorial, and even cool stuff that I've discovered since then, and I'm going to try my best to answer them and provide solutions. What if the game is larger than 4 GB? If the game is large, then Wii Backup Manager or Wii GUI can actually split the files into parts. So if the game is quite large, then Wii Backup Manager or Wii GUI can actually split the WBFS file into separate parts. This is what I had to do with Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Xenoblade Chronicles due to them being very large files. Where can I download games? Well, USB Loader GX's purpose is to back up your own game files. That way you don't need to use disks. You can back up the games just by selecting the disk icon and selecting Start. And you can use homebrew apps such as CleanRip to back up your physical disks. Upon booting USB Loader GX, the loading process gets stuck. Why is this happening? Sometimes USB Loader GX can be very picky. If this happens, just hold the power button on the console and then reboot USB Loader GX. It should now be working, however if this happens every time, this may be a problem with your USB. Why is my Wii restarting every time I start a game? Well, this has to do with either the cIOS not being installed, or a game file that is completely corrupted or incompatible. How about other games that are not just GameCube or Wii? Well, there are other emulators for that, such as Wii64, FCUX GX, and SNES 9GX. Can I load up games from different regions? Yes! PAL and Japanese GameCube and Wii games work perfectly fine. And this may be a great way to access some of your favorite games in one convenient location. Can I load up unofficial Wii games, such as ROM hacks that have been converted into WBFS format? And yes, you totally can do that. Some might have issues and might not work correctly, but they should work. And it's a pretty cool way to access them, especially stuff like newer Super Mario Bros. Wii. Can I play Triforce arcade games? Yes. By enabling Triforce in settings, you can then play Mario Kart Arcade GP1 and 2, as well as F-Zero AX. They work great and look even better with widescreen enabled, which you can actually add as well in the GameCube Nintendo settings. How about Wimify? Does that work? Well, it actually does. All you need to do is enable private server settings and it should work. How about Wii Flow? Is it a better alternative? Well, I haven't personally used Wii Flow. However, if you are having no luck whatsoever, or only have a large SD card, it may be a good option. If you want me to make a tutorial on the loader, make sure to let me know. Anyways guys, that brings us to the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see future videos heading your way, and of course leave a like. If you have any concerns or issues, make sure to comment down below or visit my Discord server, which you can find in the description, and even become part of the community. This video was a large one to make, and that's why I probably won't be making a lot of USB Loader GX videos, as this pretty much covers everything I would like to cover, and I wouldn't really like to be copying and pasting this video every single year. So if there is an update or something significant, then I will update this tutorial, but I won't be making ones every single year because, to be honest, nothing really does change from year to year. Also, a special thanks to Yo Explosi, Sunny, Susie Trash, Nintendo Mike, Jeans, and others from the Discord community, as this video wouldn't have been possible without them. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.